What's up, guys? My name is Marcos Garcia, and you're on Conversations with One Percenters. And today we have Mr. Ron Carter. Welcome to the show, man.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for having me, Marcos. Super just appreciative to be here.
Did I lose you?
No, I'm still here.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So yeah,
All right.
super appreciative to be here, especially on a show called One Percenters, because I'm definitely not like 1% income bracket yet. But I saw some of your stuff, and it's like it's not about like how much you're making. It's like the mindset of a 1%er. So
Exactly.
super
1%.
cool.
Yeah, exactly. 1% doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, yeah, I got to be balling out. Don't get me wrong. We're going to get there one day. Trust me. But
Yeah,
like to be a 1%er and to get to that level, you have to have the mindset. You have to have the drive. You have to have the perseverance to get to that level. And I think that's what it takes first. So that's more of what this podcast is about.
awesome. Yeah, stoked to be here, man.
So we have a ritual with the podcast. Basically, at the very beginning of the show, you get to ask the first question for our next guest. I have your question right here. But before I ask you, what question would you like to ask for our next guest on the next show?
Ooh, hot seat. I love it. I think probably what's one story about a challenge in your business that you don't like to tell other people?
A challenge in your business that you don't like to tell other people.
Yeah,
Ooh, I love that
that's a
one.
hard one.
That one's gonna be a good question. Perfect. All right, so we got your question for the day. What's the number one mindset tip that you use to help others get over mental roadblocks to help them generate results faster?
I would say, let me think about that. The number one that I use to help others.
Number one mindset tip you use to help others get over mental roadblocks to get results faster.
Yeah, I would say it's more or less a framework that I would take them through, but what it involves is being able to let go of the old stories of their identity that they currently have now that are limiting them and adopt new ones, basically. Um, and what I mean by that is like we all kind of, it goes along with the intro of this show. We all act in accordance with how we see ourselves. And so if I see myself as somebody who can't get on podcasts or can't get on videos, or it's hard for me to do sales calls or to generate leads, if that's the story that I'm telling myself, maybe one person has told me this once. So like I cold call somebody and they're like, "Oh, you suck at this," and they hang up. But if I'm telling myself that over and over and over again, then I'm going to believe that, and then I'm not going to work to improve that. I'm not going to think that I can get any results doing that. And from my experience, that is like the foundation of limiting beliefs of people not getting the results that they want. It's simply because they think that they can't do it. And being able to remove those stories and replace them with empowering ones, that's like the most beneficial thing that you can do for somebody. That's why in so much marketing, um, in so much marketing material and even training and courses, there's so many stories that are loaded in there, where entrepreneurs are talking about where they used to be at, where they're at now, kind of like the struggles and the things that happen in between, because somebody else watches that and then they go like, oh, they were in the same spot that I'm in right now. It starts to rearrange the viewer's story of themselves by watching this. And that's why it's just way more effective than just teaching people tactics. Like, hey, if you go do this and go do this and go do this, then you'll get results. And the thing is, if somebody has this limiting story or this limiting way that they see themselves or that they think about themselves, they're not going to go do those things effectively. Like the story and our identity that we hold for ourselves is like the overarching like master when it comes to like what results that we can get. Does
That's
that make
very
sense?
interesting. Yeah, that's a very interesting perspective. Do you have an example of maybe a story you told yourself in the past that you were able to like reframe or um to help, like I said, to help you get over, to help you like develop a better mindset? Or when you did develop your better mindset, you're like, okay, this story's not serving me no more. And where do you think those stories come from?
Yeah, dude, these are awesome questions. I definitely have some examples, and so for me, I'll just go full in, right? So I talk about this online, so I don't really care about this being out there. But I spent most of my life addicted to drugs and alcohol, um, and uh, and like that started when I was really young, right?
Hmm.
And I started to get into business. It's funny. I started to get into like at first it was just making money online in any way possible. I was doing like drop shipping, affiliate marketing, all kinds of stuff. But I started doing that because I thought that if I get some results here and I can get a bunch of cash in sales, then it would make my life better. But I still had this like humongous problem in my personal life
Mm.
over here, right? And
Yeah, I
so
know.
and so I had this thought that I need this, like the drugs and the alcohol, to feel comfortable within my own skin. I need this to be able to do extroverted activities. I need this to just feel okay. And I believed that. And and because I believed that, it was part of my identity. It was true for me. Like when I didn't have the substances, I did feel super uncomfortable. I did feel like I couldn't do all these extroverted things, like get online and like make videos or make pitches to people or any of that stuff. Um, but at the same time, it got to a point where it was like really hindering um, just my life and my results in a lot of areas, not just in business. And I started to learn about identity and about how you see yourself. And it's funny, as I was going through some training uh, from Sam Ovens when I was first learning this, and and as I was going through the training, he was saying, "There's all these things that don't serve you in your life." I'm paraphrasing, by the way, but basically saying there's all these things that don't serve you in your life, and you need to cut them, just remove them. And the first thing I thought was like this big problem that I have. And I was like,
Mm.
oh shit, I gotta like I gotta like remove the thing that I've kind of wanted to remove my entire life and haven't been able to. Like and once I do that, I can have some success. And I was like, this is gonna suck. This is not gonna be easy. And um and so I didn't remove it. Not right away.
You didn't? You didn't?
Not right away.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah.
I had this realization, and then I was like, I got to do that thing. Let's not do that right now, you know?
Mm.
And so stuff got worse and worse and worse until eventually um, it came to a point where it felt internally like I had to. Like there's no other option but to focus on this and fix this problem. And uh, and so that was in 2020 when I had that realization. And I stopped doing all business stuff like online. I disappeared for a year. There's all these videos now that say disappear for a year and come back as a new person. Like I actually did that before there was
Oh
like
shit.
videos
Okay.
of that, like at least online, right? I
Yeah.
didn't disappear in the real world. But so I did that, and then I just got a regular job that I knew I really wouldn't like. I found other people who were living like a sober life and had the same problems that I had, and they don't anymore. And then I just asked them what they did, like the same thing that we do here when we're learning how to do anything. It's like find the person who did what you're trying to do, ask them what they did, then do everything that they tell you, you know. And I did that, and through that process, I discovered that me wanting to drink and use drugs was really a symptom of a deeper problem that I had. And the deeper
Mm.
problem was that I had really low self-worth. I didn't feel good about myself. I was also like really selfish, even though you may not see it. I was always concerned about how I feel and how other people are making me feel, and that's why, like, I always wanted to change how I feel. That's all I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking about how I can give to other people, how I could serve other people. It's just all me, 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 me. And because of that, I was in a lot of pain all the time. And that's what caused me to want to fix that, quote unquote, fix it with different substances. And I learned this when I removed the substances and realized that I didn't feel any better yet. And so, because I didn't change any of these underarching behaviors and this like story that I, was telling myself. And so what I did was just consistently work to become a different person, meaning consistently work to give back to other people, to go to all the people that in my life that that I've wronged, even if they don't think that I've wronged them, but I do in some way, shape, or form, and go like make it right. An example of this is back in the day when I was like a kid, I used to steal a bunch of like candy and gummy worms from stores and stuff, and or steal like bottles of booze before I was like old enough to buy them, right? And so I went back to my hometown and I went into the stores and asked for the manager, and like had money, and I told them what I used to do, even though it was 20 years ago. I said I used to do this, this, and that. I used to take these from the store, and I had this money. It's not mine. It's yours. And I just told them I'm living my life a different way. So like I want to give you your money. And most of them were like, this is awesome. Nobody does this. And they just put it into like a charity, or they told me like, just keep it, like just keep doing what you're doing. But through that action, I really started to rewire the story of who I am. And I realized like, I'm not just this piece of crap person. I don't just take from everybody. I'm not constantly focused on myself. And I have evidence to point to. It's where like my mind can go, see, like if you were really just so selfish all the time, you wouldn't have went and did that, or you wouldn't have went and did this. And so I think that kind of goes back to the point of like changing our identity is how we can really get results, but solidifying that identity, the new identity with action, is what like really imprints it in my experience. And so that's one of the big ones, because after I did that, and I was clean and sober for about a year, I decided to get back into business and started getting sales like right away. And it's like, oh, like I didn't change my strategy or the process or anything. I just took a year off and changed myself, and then went and did the same things that I was trying to do before, and they worked. And yeah.
That's powerful, honestly. I resonate with you literally on almost everything you said. I was never really big into drugs, but I did start getting more into alcohol. And when you mentioned that you took Sam Ovens' course, I'm assuming it was Consulting Accelerator, and I took the same course. My biggest problem was, like you said, the identity. I did not see myself as like who I wanted to become. I saw myself as like who I was, or worse, like someone who was drinking every single day, someone who was a bartender bartending, someone who was a goofy prankster YouTube going out and pranking people and acting silly online for views. Like that's my identity and who I was. And it wasn't like when you mentioned Sam Ovens actually changed my life. I'm not gonna lie, because in his training, he talks about like who you are today is not like, say for instance, you have like you probably already know this, but for the people watching, if you have like a goal to make $1 million, you and your current self and your current identity, the way you look at yourself, is not able to accomplish that goal. And so I was like, man, when I first like heard of that, I was like, is that true? Like, is that really true? So the question I want to ask you is like, what would you say your current, like, who were you? And then like, what did you have you changed? I know you're sober, which is good. So you obviously changed a lot in your mindset and things like that. But like, what was that? What was I would say? What was that like real turning point moment? Because like even with all the information, even with all the information from Sam Evans, it still took me a while to actually change. You know what I mean? It wasn't like an overnight thing. The more I started reading this stuff, and the more I started like comparing it to like my everyday life, I was like, okay, if I keep doing this, I'm never gonna be who I want to become. So like, what was that changing moment for you? Like that actual like moment where of like, I need to completely change my life.
Right, right. Like moment of
Moment, it could be
clarity.
like not moment, but just like that
Yeah.
that you had to have that moment. For me, it was like drunk. Like one night I got really super drunk at the bar, and I'm like, I was bartending that day, and next thing you know, I'm like, on like what we call the drunk bench. If you go to my bar, like where I work, we have a drunk bench. Anyone who lands on that bench it's like a drunk bench. Well, it was 4th of July. All the owners were there, and then you just have me just like bent over, just like puking and like throwing up and like pretty much embarrassing myself in front of everyone. People were like snapping photos so they could send me the next day in videos. But I literally had to be dragged home. So like once I like woke up that day, I'd throw up on my carpet. I got up and I was like, man, like this is not who I wanted to become. Like this is literally the complete
Mm,
opposite of what I want to become. Even after taking Sam's course, even knowing like I needed to make these changes, I still didn't make the changes right away. So it wasn't
right.
until that moment that I actually was like, I need to change. And since then, I haven't drank for 1.5 years.
Nice, nice. I First of all, I appreciate you sharing that, and yeah, like I definitely did have a moment where it's like I knew this stuff. Like you said, I went through the material and I took action on pretty much everything else except for that, you know? And but it was a seed that was planted in my mind, and so what ended up happening for me is towards the end of 2020, I had went from just like drinking and like smoking weed occasionally to like doing harder drugs again. And because I'd had a long break from like harder stuff, right?
Yep.
And so and when I did that, it like my life like burnt to the ground super quick. It's like within a
Mm.
couple weeks, I was kicked out of my place in Los Angeles that I was living at. And I was just reacting to all these things, right? It's like, okay, now I'm kicked out. Like, where am I going to live? So I call up my brother. Um, he lived a couple hours north of LA in our hometown, um, but he didn't have his own place. He stayed in his friend's place. His friend's mom owned the house, and my brother rented a room there, and they had a
Mm.
spare room. And so he's like, yeah, I talked to my friend, and he said you can stay in this spare room, until you get your like feet on the ground here. And so I threw most of my stuff away because I couldn't like afford the moving fees, and
Yep.
so I packed everything that I wanted to keep into a duffel bag. It's literally all I had, and I got on an Amtrak train and I went up there, and I'm thinking I'm gonna move towns, and then I'm going to like just get my stuff together over here, and I got there, and I kept doing what I was doing in LA, and so it continually just got worse. I was staying in this spare bedroom. The house was like in shambles, because it used to be like an old party house, but now like they've kind of chilled out. But the house is like a wreck from those previous years, and I'm sleeping on. I got a box spring and an air mattress and a sleeping bag that doesn't zip up all the way, and that's what I'm sleeping on in there. And I'm still doing the same stuff, like just in
Dang.
a different town. And then one day, um, I disappeared from the internet because I didn't want like it sucked when I was doing that, and then I would see like leads messaging me that I had like contacted like a month prior, like asking about my service, and I thinking in my head like there's no way, like you don't want to pay me for anything right now. And so I just deleted those apps off my phone, right?
Mm.
But one day I download Facebook, I open it up, and then I see people that I had known from years ago because I tried to, get off drugs and alcohol before,
Yep.
and I saw people that I knew from like 8 years ago, celebrating like 8 years of sobriety. That's the first thing I saw, right? And I'm looking around, I'm sitting on this air mattress with this broken sleeping bag, and I'm looking at their life and how much better it is. And I'm like, than it was when I knew them. Um, because when I knew them, they were brand new, like, first couple weeks of detoxing and all that stuff. And I'm thinking like, dude, like you could do that, like to myself, right? Like you can do that. If they can do that, you can do that. And that's where it really started to click for me. I don't think I was even thinking about Sam Oven stuff because at this point in time, like my life had gotten so small that like this was the only thing to focus on. And I look at that now like it's kind of a miracle because when I mapped out, when I went through Sam Oven stuff and I mapped out my current self and my current character and my future self, who I want to become, who I'm becoming, uh, the main thing on there was like current self does these activities. Um, the future version of myself does not do these things.
Mm.
And and so I mapped that out and I made like a conscious decision that you're gonna have to remove this to get to where you want to go. And then and I read over that every day for a while. And then it's kind of like life shifted and transformed and brought me all these circumstances that like forced me to handle that. It just didn't happen right away. It took some months for all that to happen, and that was kind of the turning point because when I that's the moment that I realized that that was happening. I opened up Facebook, saw that, and then that's when I started to get into action to change that. Um, and Yeah, and then from there, it's just been like a roller coaster ride. I'm so grateful for that experience now, because I could look back on that and be like, that's exactly what I needed, exactly when I needed it. But at the time, it sucked. Like I wasn't grateful
No,
for
it
any of
does.
it
It
at the
does
time,
suck because yeah, I'm with you. No, it really does suck. Even for me, and like, I was like, why am I trying to make all this progress forward just to go backwards? Because you know how it is. Like drugs and alcohol, you're not gonna make any really solid progress. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna be put into action, but it's like literally you're probably giving like less than 10% of yourself to like what you're actually dedicated to. And it really
Yeah,
pulls you away. Do you think your environment shaped any of this?
yeah, I think so for sure. Um, and I say that because it's like our environment. It This is just what I believe, right? But our environment has like a big factor on like the inputs of our mind, and inputs create outputs, right? So for anybody watching, I know that you probably understand this just from like the similar trainings that we've gone through, but for anybody watching
Which is
this,
why, yeah, which is why I
um,
asked the question. I asked that question for specifically because I know that you know what I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah, and so like inputs create outputs, right? So let's say that I want to build a bunch of muscle, bunch of muscle mass. Well, there are some inputs that I have to put into my system of this physical body, right? And those inputs are consistently go to the gym and lift progressively heavier weight to get stronger, and eat protein and stay away from processed sugars, and like these are all inputs. The output is uh you know increased muscle mass, right? um well, it's the same thing with our mind. um the inputs that I put into my mind are going to dictate the outputs that my mind is able to, like the things that I'm able to create and the things that I'm able to do with my mind. And it's funny because I kind of view like my story like I like to think about it like this. Like, dang, okay, if I could like overcome all that stuff, like I had to overcome all that just to be able to like start where a lot of people are already at. Just like, okay, now it's like now my life is just kind of like normal in a sense. And and I have like just regular people problems, and now I can start a business. And so I think about that when I'm talking to people, and I'm like, dude, if I can do this stuff like you can, I had to undo a lot of bad behavior and a lot of bad thinking, and but a big part of that bad behavior and bad thinking was my environment. I'm not saying that it's anybody's fault or my environment's fault, because by the time I was an adult, the environment that I was in, I chose to be in that environment. you know,
Mm.
it was that's the environment that I chose and went to. Um, and but it's definitely a big factor though. But the cool thing about it is the environment is a big factor, like who you're surrounding yourself with, the way that people are thinking around you, all that stuff. But it's in our power to change our environment.
No,
Yeah.
it definitely is. Man, no, that's super powerful story, man. We got deep really quick, and I appreciate you for sharing like everything that you shared. I know that sometimes that can be personal, like that stuff's personal. Some people don't like sharing that stuff. Um, for those watching who might be struggling, you know what I mean? There's gonna be probably people watching, they might have the similar struggles we've had. Like anything you can share with them that can possibly, I know we're not doctors, we're not, and I'm gonna say this right now, this is not medical advice, and you're not guaranteed like results after watching this podcast, but like there's anything you can share to like help someone guide them to like quitting if they're wanting to quit.
Yeah, for sure. Like I could just share what helped me the most, right? Because there's a lot of different avenues. I'll First and foremost, I'll say that, right? Um, if And just to kind of add to the disclaimer there, which I think is very smart, it's like if you're experiencing like physical withdrawals with anything, you should probably see a doctor, right? Um, and but As far as like being able to stop, I found people who were able to stop with the same problem that I had, and I did what they said. And there's different ways that you can do that. There's like different 12-step programs um, for depending on whatever it is that you're suffering with or that you're going through, and they're they're worldwide. So no matter where you're watching this, and just to name off a few, there's like Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Gambling Anonymous, like, and those things, like that's where you can find somebody who's struggling or who struggled with something similar to what you may be going through, and you'll be able to just ask them like, hey, what did you do? um, it makes it super easy to find other people who know what you're going through. And but also, like, if you have physical symptoms, like, go see a doctor too. you know
Correct.
those
Yeah, yeah.
those
And
are the
like I said,
things that
this
I
is
did.
we're not giving any medical advice whatsoever. So
Right.
did you notice like cuz for me, I'm just going to give you my personal story. For me, it's like I had the problem, I wanted to quit alcohol, right? That was my like 1.5 years ago, that was my biggest problem. Was like as I was trying to level up in business, I was like I need to quit alcohol. Like that was literally the only problem I was dealing with. Did you notice once you quit that stuff, then you're like, okay, now I'm faced with a new problem. And if so, like, what were some of those new problems? Because like, let's just be real. Like, when you quit this stuff, it doesn't mean all your problems go away. Like, as you try to level up, as you're going through life, more problems are going to arise, and it's just how you overcome those problems. So I'm interested in like some of the problems you have maybe faced with go going forward, and then two, like if you have any methods for your problem solving now that's different from before.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's a great question, because the way that I look at things now is like every time I solve a problem, there's always another one. And I don't look at that as I used to look at that as a bad thing. Like, man, there's all these problems.
Mm-hmm.
But now I realize, like, well, that's what if no problems are showing up ever, that means you're staying exactly the same.
Dang,
And
that lock that in. Remember that no problems are. If you have no problems in your life, you're probably not leveling up.
exactly. And so now I look at problems, they're like, just like with the terminology you said, leveling up. Like every time I experience a new problem, I'm like, okay, this is like the end of the level boss. And I beat this problem and I'm at the next level, right? And some of the problems that I had after like removing drugs and alcohol, they were like just I consider them regular people problems, not even entrepreneurial problems, because like okay, like I had relationship problems because I was like dating and stuff again. I wasn't doing any of that when I was like deep in my addiction because I had this low self-worth and I thought like I'm not good enough to be dating anybody like or anybody that I want to date at least. So I just wasn't doing that, right? And so now I'm like I was getting back on like the dating scene and then like trying to manage all this stuff and so it was really just like I look at them like normal people problems because that's what people are experiencing left and right. But they were things that I was depriving myself of before, right? And then it's like you know, it's funny because now it's 3 years and it's almost 3.5 years since I quit uh, doing all that stuff, and it's like now I live in this amazing house in California with my girlfriend, my partner, first person that I've ever lived with, right? And we've been living together for a year, and stuff is going good. But that happened from going through like these other relationships and the problems that were showing up in them, and
Can I make
learning and growing through that.
interruption real quick?
Yeah,
Um, just for the for context for everybody, you went from literally doing drugs to living in someone's house on a sleeping bag to owning your own house with your girlfriend, nice house, and doing well. Correct?
yeah. Well,
Man,
we
that's
don't
a
own
big.
it.
That's a
This is
that,
California. We don't own
oh,
it.
even worse.
But
Yeah, even like California, it's not cheap. Man, first I just want to say congratulations, and sorry to interrupt you, but like that's a big accomplishment, like for real. I hope, like, I literally hope you feel like you actually feel proud.
thanks, man. I appreciate that. And it's funny because I'm so head down all the time, like just do the work in front of me, do the thing in front of me, that a lot of times I don't like lift my head up and look back and be like, oh, like it only happens in fleeting moments, and it's usually when other people remind me of it. So I appreciate that. Um, but yeah, it's like just to kind of get back to your question, I think that the way that I handle problems now that's totally different compared to how I used to is I used to see a problem and run away. Like that was like that's what I did when I had the realization that oh, you have to remove this stuff from your life. Even though it seemed like it had nothing to do with business, I knew that like removing that is going to make me just a better person overall, which is going to help me be able to be more successful in business. It's going to help me be able to handle the new challenges that are going to come up in business. And I ran away from that. I was like, nope, not doing that. You know, until I had to. And so now when I see a problem, when I see a challenge, especially when I know that the goal that I'm after is somewhere on the other side of that, it might not be directly on the other side, it might be like through it and to the right or to the left a little bit, but it's in that direction. And this challenge is like a wall that's in front of me to get there. When I see that, I'm just like, okay, like let's go. Because I know that it's a good thing. And so one way that I reframe that is I don't even like to use the word problem anymore. Um, I like to use the word challenge. And so this is
Hmm.
like just what's in my mind all the time. whenever there's an issue, it's a challenge. It's
I
not a
like that. No,
problem.
I like that because if you think of a video game, you're doing a challenge.
Yeah,
You're not doing a problem. Like, oh, this is not a problem. This is a challenge to get to the next level. No, I like
exactly.
that. I like that. I like that. Okay.
And yeah, exactly, right? And at the end of each challenge, there's always a reward in video games and in life. And so I may be feeling all the same feelings and emotions that we feel when we're going through like quote unquote problems, like uneasiness, a little bit of doubtfulness, like um not really knowing if I can figure it out, but at the same time thinking like, but I know I can figure it out because I can mentally point to the other challenges that I've moved through. Be like, well, if I could do that, I can do this. And but at the same time, it's like I also know that there's gold on the other side of that. And and so now I look forward to challenges because I know they're going to come up. I'm not
Mhm.
going to stop growing. There's going to be challenges, and that's cool. Like that's just the life that I've decided to live, and and it's my decision to live that. And so it's really a cool thing. Inside of every challenge, there's an opportunity, and so I can find that opportunity and capitalize on it, or I could decide to not do anything. And I and I took that not do anything route for a long time in my life, and I didn't like that. So yeah, that helps me be able to move through them like no problem. And sometimes the challenges take a while. Like I've had a challenge recently, um, I'd say over the last year, um, where I was selling high ticket and I didn't like being on the phones all the time. Like yeah, I could do it, right? But I was just on the phone all the time, on the phone, and then on coaching calls all the time. It's like constantly on Zoom all day long. And I didn't like it. And I'd been on a sales team before, so I knew what it was like to, from a sales team member perspective, I knew how much energy it took for our sales manager just to manage us. And so I was thinking like, I don't want to be doing the sales all the time. I also don't want to be managing the people who are doing the sales all the
Yep.
time. Um, even though everyone's like, that's how you scale to like 8 figures a year, right? Um, and so, but I just didn't have that alignment, and and so I just decided, well, I'm going to try to make a membership instead, where people are paying like 150 bucks a month, whatever, um, to get group coaching, and and it's been a challenge to go from selling something that's 3K to 10K to providing like the same information for 150 a month, and
Mm.
and then like in getting people in. And it's funny because I feel like I'm just figuring out the challenge now. This challenge started last October, right? So it's been
And
from
that's we're
October
talking
until
about. Are we
now.
talking about school?
Yeah,
Using
yeah,
school? Okay. For
yeah.
those of you who don't know School is a platform Sam Ovens built, the one we talked about earlier. Super, super successful, and not even successful. I wouldn't even say like Sam Ovens. He really doesn't even care about money. Like he's more about like leaving a legacy. Like that. This dude's on another level. Um,
Right.
I do have a question before we keep moving forward because it's more of a selfish question for myself. I'm kind
Yeah,
of
sure.
curious. What's the biggest takeaway you got from learning from Sam Ovens? Besides like the what we had talked about in the past, like is there anything that like you found super valuable?
I would say like the biggest stuff we've already talked about it though is the mindset stuff, right?
Okay.
It's the stuff that's impacted me the most.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but number two, actually, this is like super valuable too, because I never thought of this until I went through his stuff. Was that sell what people want, what they actually say that they want. Um, because before and I think a lot of entrepreneurs maybe that are just starting do this. I know I did this. I would think of a really cool idea. It was cool to me. I'm like, this is awesome. Like everyone's gonna love this. I know it. And then I'll start working on it, and building out like all the funnels and the course material for this thing, and then I go like announce it to the world, and no one cares.
Cricket. No, I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking about. I did that with like a viral giveaway course I was gonna build whenever I was like in my like shiny object syndrome mode. Whenever I was just like, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do drop shipping, I need to do this, and it's all what I wanted in my head, like legit,
Yeah.
no market research whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's the thing. It's like, it's really, I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. That's all it is. It's market research. But um, I guess it's like really understanding the concept that just because I think something's cool doesn't mean that everyone else will think that it's cool too. And, or
Mm.
maybe they'll think it's cool. It doesn't mean that they'd be willing to pay me for it. And
Have you found like a secret like hack to figure out what people want? Like, have you found like a method that works for you?
yeah, so what I do, I kind of already have like, I'll just preface this by saying this. I kind of already have like a small audience. It's not huge, right? And and so I'll go on my Facebook, and I'll just make a post, and say, hey, I was thinking about doing a training on to help with XYZ, or to help with this, or help with that. Um, but I only want to do it if you guys actually want it. Uh, so let me know if this is something that would interest you.
And
And
so
then,
if you get responses to that, like it's a good thing. And if you don't get responses, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because most people view like no responses as like, okay, no one likes
yeah,
me.
if I get no
Um,
responses, I spent 30 seconds making a Facebook post instead of like 3 months making a course, you know? Um, and so, and then what I'll do from there is, since they already know I haven't made the training yet, or I haven't made anything yet, um, I DM them and say, hey, is it cool if I ask you a couple of questions? I want to be able to make this
mm,
as helpful as possible. Um, and then they say, yeah. And then I can go into a messenger conversation. I can find out exactly what their problem is, exactly where they're trying to go. Um, and if the training that I make, this is even if I make the training, because right now it's like I don't even know if I'm going to make it. Um, is what will help them, and that's it. Then I'll tell them that. But if what's going to help with whatever this problem is the most is like me working with them, I'll tell them that. And and then we can move the conversation kind of like into a sales conversation. Um, and so last year I created an offer where I was helping affiliate marketers get sales, right? And the way that we created that was the same method. I made some Facebook posts. People reached out. They wanted it. Didn't have any course material or anything. At first, it was like, hey, we're just going to get on. You have unlimited Zoom calls. So here's our Zoom or calendar link. People would pay us, and it's like, here's the calendar link. When you need a call or the next bit of information, just schedule it. And so it was just on Zoom calls all the time. But that was helpful because I saw exactly what people. I would walk them through each step of the process to start getting some sales. And then after I did that a bunch, I knew like, okay, this is what I have to walk everybody through. These are the questions that they always ask. And that's when I started recording modules. And then after that, we were selling the actual course and the modules that we recorded. Um, but
and so you teach people how to do affiliate marketing. And is that like affiliate marketing where like they're putting links in a website, or is that where they're like promoting products?
no, it's more or less, instead of just like putting links in a website and trying to get massive traffic to it. I mean, that's one way that you could do it. Um, but really what I teach is building a personal brand, um, and recommending stuff that you use and that you love. And
Mm,
because that's, to me, that's just what feels good. You know, I don't want to recommend stuff that I have no idea if it's even
yeah.
good. Um, you know, and and so that's like the core of what I teach. Of course, there's like some like outlier stuff where if people want to like not show their face at all, or they just want to run some ads, like I'm working on that right now. I actually have like one student in beta, that I didn't charge him for, because I'm like, hey, I'm figuring ad stuff out right now. So are you willing to let me figure them out with you, and you can be a case study? And he said, yeah, sure. So we're doing that. Um, but uh, but ultimately, like that's what I was doing like last year. I'm still doing that, but now I'm. It's weird because I'm kind of shifting. It's like always ever evolving. I'm still serving the same market, but what I've noticed is that, okay, I'll just tell a story about a new client that I got last week, right?
Okay.
Um, she's got uh, she's got an experience in life that's really similar to mine, and so she's really like rewired her mindset, and so she wants to get coaching students, uh, so she can help them with their mindset. But she's also like, but I see all your stuff and I want to do affiliate marketing too. And I said, okay, like how about we just make your own offer, right? Where you're actually going to help these people, um, yourself. And then when there's other products or services that are going to help you with that mission, it's like you sign them as a client and then you recommend other things to them that are going to help them with the goal that you're helping them get to. And so it's kind of like integrating making your own offer and affiliate marketing. Um, and so that's what I'm doing with her. And honestly, right now, I'm not sure if that's what I want to change all of my messaging to in the front end of like my content. Um, but I'm kind of leaning towards that, where it's like, hey, like moving away from just talking about affiliate marketing and talking about just digital product sales in general. That means it can be somebody else's, or it can be your own, or a combination of the two. I mean, because that's honestly what I do. I sell my own stuff, and I recommend affiliate stuff, on the back end to help people with whatever it is that their goal is.
And so when should people start affiliate marketing? So like someone they're like, man, I have no audience. They're like, man, I don't even have like 5 followers who engage with me on Facebook, or I don't even have a TikTok, or I don't have Instagram. When should they start, and also who is this best fit for?
Yeah, so I would say if you're in that spot where you have no following, no audience, like no nothing, it's one of the reasons that I recommend affiliate marketing, because that's what I started when I had nothing like that, and it only requires two skills, right? All you need to learn is marketing and sales. If you're selling your own thing, you have to learn marketing, sales, uh, coaching, product development, client success. There's a lot of different things,
Just
right?
product
Um,
development, just product development and offer can be a pain in the ass just by itself
yeah,
alone. That
right,
could honestly take you like 2 years just to develop the right product. So it's
right.
like,
And so if you're in a spot where you don't really have a following, this is what I would recommend. Um, you find somebody that can teach you affiliate marketing, and I don't care if it's me, like anybody that you resonate with. I'm not saying to find me, like, no, but you just find somebody that you resonate with, and you learn from them. Right, go find the people who've done what you're trying to do, learn from them, and literally just do what they say to do, regardless of what your mind says. And and one other caveat to that is, as you're doing it, um, if you document the process, if you document the process that you're going through, and you put it out on social media, you will start to get followers. Um, and it may not seem like a lot, but what you're actually here's an example of this that I'm doing for my group that I created on school, right? Um, so I created this group, like it's only been like 10 days, um, and decided to move away from just Facebook groups. But what I've been doing is every day, um, I make a quick 60-second video where I'm like, hey, this is day one of starting a new community on school. and within 60 seconds, I just share what I'm doing or what I did for the day. And I'm showing my computer screen. I'm like, I created the group. I put some core stuff in there. Like, that's it. And then I put it on YouTube and I put it on my Facebook as a reel. And I know that it's like nothing right now, but I know that like in a year, when I've been consistent and I'm doing that for a year, and people are like, oh, day 67 of starting a new community from scratch, and they see
Mm.
how many people are in the community. Because I started off saying I do that little intro, and then I show my computer screen with the community and how many people are in it. And so it's like once you get to the point where like that's going to grow an audience, but it's also going to be like the massive stack of proof that you like know what the hell you're talking about like later on down the road, and people will be able to go through it and like see that whole journey. And so that's what you can do with affiliate marketing. If you're like, I don't know what content to create, I'm not an expert, you don't have to be an expert to document just what you're doing and what you're learning, and over time
And
it
people,
turns
yeah,
into this.
some people might not think they're like in their head the thoughts that might come, because I've had this thought before. Man, my life's not that interesting. I'm not a multimillionaire. You know what I mean? These are thoughts that I used to have in the past. Like, oh no, who's gonna want to listen to me? So like, anything you could say to that, to like people who have those thoughts?
Yeah, sure. It makes me think of this story. You ever see that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio? It's an old movie called Catch Me If You Can.
I haven't.
Leonardo
Is it
DiCaprio and
good?
Tom Hanks. Yeah, it's pretty good. So it's about this. It's based on a true story, and it's about this con man. I think his name was Frank Abagnale. Um, and so he did all these like crazy cons where he was like impersonating a pilot for Pan Am Airlines. I don't think that company exists anymore, but he like impersonated a pilot, and he was like a co-pilot, like riding around on all these jets, and he was printing fake checks, uh, and like just getting rich, like basically printing all these checks and cashing them at different banks because he was taking the airlines to different countries to cash the checks, and like he was doing all this crazy stuff. But one of the things that he did um, is he impersonated a professor. I forgot what the class was for, at Brigham Young University, and so Tom Hanks is the FBI agent trying to find him all throughout the movie, right? And so towards the end of the movie, spoiler alert, but it's been out for like 20 years. So towards the end of the movie, when Tom Hanks catches him, he says, "Look," he said, "I've figured out how you've done everything that you've been doing, but there's one thing that I don't know how you did this." He's like, "And you got to tell me, how did you instruct this class at this university for a full semester?"
Damn. No, that's interesting. I'm actually curious myself.
Right. And so Leonardo, uh, or his character Frank, looked up at Tom Hanks and he said, "It was easy. I just read a chapter ahead of the class." And so I just read a chapter ahead of the class. So that's what I would say to anybody who thinks that they don't have something of value to share, because there's always somebody who's a chapter behind you,
Mm.
and you can
There's
share
someone
something
always.
that will help them.
There's always gonna be someone who's slightly behind you, and you need to.
Yep,
And basically, you're gonna talk to them.
exactly.
I love that. No, that's it. That's very powerful. I'm gonna have to watch that movie. It was Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll watch that.
yeah.
So
It's a good
so he
movie.
basically was a nobody, but he made himself a somebody.
Right. And the cool thing about that is that's like if you're just getting started. If you're like, I don't have any audience, I don't have any skills, like what you'll notice, what you may notice if you actually go through and you do that is you end up sharing little bits of knowledge. And it might be something that you just learned from some course that you went into, and then like you're just learning it. You're like, hey, I just learned this, this, and this, and then you'll start to notice people like reaching out and asking questions about it, and you keep doing that over time, and you're going to actually develop a skill. You're going to develop a skill, right? And once you have a skill, like let's say that you learn, um, through that process, you start to learn, creating content, copywriting, um, also messaging in the DMs in sales. Now, all this stuff, it might take a long time to learn all three of those, right? But once you do, you notice that, oh, I'm actually getting sales now. And the cool thing is, once you really start to master skills, then you don't have to have the approach of like, I'm just learning this and I'll share with you what I'm learning to the people who are right behind me. Um, Once you get like ridiculously good at something, that's when you can start talking to people who are further ahead of you, right? Like if you get really good at, like, let's say, for example, um, building funnels and running ads, and you're really good at that. Well, that's when you can start to talk to people who already have like amazing offers that are already doing really well, who don't have media buyers. They don't have people running ads for them, or they don't have somebody that's constantly optimizing their funnels and making them better. And then you can start to offer your services to them at a higher price point because it's more valuable to them, because you go in there and you build this stuff, you're going to make them a whole lot more money. And that's when the game like really starts to shift. So it's like you can start off by just helping the people who are right behind you until you can get some skills developed, and you can start offering those skills to higher net worth individuals.
You jumping some knowledge today, some powerful knowledge. Where can so for the people interested in affiliate marketing, how much money can they make like in their first year, and then like also how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so first year, it really depends. Like there's a lot of factors, right? I think my first year of affiliate marketing, I made like probably $2,400 in total. Um, and I've seen some people come in and like, make 10K in total for their first year. I've seen other people. You're always going to see these stories on the internet of people saying like, I made this much within this amount of time, but what they're skipping over is the whole, like, in my story, right? I have that whole process where it's like I disappeared from online for a whole year and I basically got my shit together. Then I
Yep.
came back at it and made money, right?
Which
Well, all
yeah, so you're basically talking like a cool analogy for this is what I've recently stumbled upon is like you got your car, which is like affiliate marketing, and then you got your driver, which is you. So if you're out there and like you're like, oh, I want to do affiliate marketing, but you're out there doing drugs and you're out there doing like alcohol and you're partying every weekend, the driver that's going to drive the affiliate marketing brand like or the business to the next level is going to be pretty much not capable of getting it to that level.
right.
But like you said, you've literally took in like 2-3 years just to like become a better person. And not to say you weren't a better person, but like to actually level up as a person, to stop doing all this stuff. So whenever you were able to jump into that affiliate marketing vehicle, you were able to take off. Is that
Exactly. And so that's why I always say it depends. Like how
okay?
much money you make in your first year, it's like I have no clue because I have no idea like where, for any of you watching, I have no idea where you're at in your personal development journey. If that's like just starting, if you're like, hey, there's some things I got to improve about myself, and you're just noticing that watching this video, well, it's probably going to take significantly longer to get the results that you want, as opposed to somebody who has already been working on removing the things from their life that are hindering their results for some time, right? And that's reasonable, to expect that. And so I don't like to give timelines because I'm
Okay.
like, I don't know where everybody's at. Um, and there's so many marketers that do give timelines, and what they what they skip over is the fact that those timelines are starting not at the beginning of the story. They're starting at the moment that they improved, and then boom, some results started coming
Mm,
in, and then they kept coming in. And then they're like, within 60 days, I made this much. It's like, really, it was like 60 days
years.
and
Yeah,
two
yeah.
years,
Years. Yeah, yeah. Years in the
Um,
making.
yeah. But so as far as where to find me, you can find me on Facebook. It's like facebook.com, Ron Carter Jr. You can find me on YouTube. If you type in Ron Carter affiliate marketing, there's a famous jazz musician named Ron Carter. So if you just type in Ron Carter, he's all you're going to see. But if you type in affiliate marketing too, or just marketing, my channel should come up. But yeah, those are like my main channel. I have other channels too, like TikTok and Instagram, but I don't use them that much. Just content's repurposed there. But those are my main ones.
You know where to find them, and also you should probably make some jazz music so you can pop up in the where that guy pops up. Just start taking some of his audience.
Yeah, just boost the algorithm.
Yeah, just like start doing some jazz. All right, now that I got your attention, boom, boom, some affiliate marketing. Here we go. No, this is it's been a great conversation. No, I felt like our stories are kind of honestly very, very similar. Like if we actually sat down and like just talked, we'd find like we have a lot in common. And I see a lot of myself in you. You know what I mean? Like I see like the trying to level up, the taking the Sam Evans course, the realization. What do you think the top 3 takeaways people can take from this podcast? Like if you had to just give 3 takeaways that people could take just to either change their life or like just start getting on a better path or just improve overall, like what would you say those would be?
Yeah, I would say number 1, change your mind, change your life, right? That's the first thing that popped up. And then I'd say number 2 is find the people who've done it and then ask them how. Whether you got to pay them or whatever. Find the people who've done it, ask them how. And number 3 is, and I didn't say this specifically, but like don't compare success stories. It just came up from your last question, but everybody's timelines are different because we're all different people.
Don't compare where you are now to where someone else, like you're looking at where they are and you're like, fuck, like
right.
That dude's way ahead of me.
Or like how long it should take
to
get results, you know? Like for me, if I have a goal to get results, it's not because by a certain time, like that's just to keep me busy. So I'm like, okay, I'll just keep doing it. But it's not because I saw somebody else get this result in this amount of time, you know? So yeah, those are my takeaways.
Man, this has been a very, very great podcast. I appreciate you coming on. And like I said, look forward to staying in touch and staying connected.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.